In the room here tonight, we have the delegates representing our clubs. At the top table here, some of the officer board. And we're delighted for the first time ever to stream live around the world the Hotel Kilmore Championship draw. The draw will also go out live on Northern Sound Radio, and your host for tonight will be John Lynch, sports editor of Shannonside Northern Sound. John will be with us in a moment. The format for tonight will be explained by Cavan Riley. Cavan Riley, the CCC chairman, is here on my right-hand side. And on my left-hand side, we have the sponsor representatives, which are obviously the Hotel Kilmore, which again, Cavan County Board are delighted to have back on board. And of course, the chairman, Tom O'Reilly. Also on the stage here tonight, we have Gary Robbins, the Assistant Secretary of Cavan County Board. And Gary will be facilitating the positioning of the pods, etc., into the draw tombola as the draw takes place. Also, off stage, we have Angela Hamilton from the Shercock Club, who is the fixture secretary, and Angela shall be updating the draw online and also on IT format so that everybody can see it on the screens. So we'll hand you over now to the MC for tonight, Mr. John Lynch.
Thank you very much indeed, Duncan. Now, just to let you know, we'd be good to go in a couple of moments. We're just waiting to join up with Northern Sound. Again, just to recap on what Declan has said, we could just ask anyone if the mobile phones maybe to have them switched off, or at least just have them on silent. We'll be here for about 30 minutes. We'll go through it, the various draws that take place, one or two interviews beforehand, and then we'll get some reaction afterwards from the winners from the 2012 championship draws, okay? So we should be ready to go. We're just going to wait on Declan's signal from back at base, and we should be proceeding along in about a minute or so from now. Okay, so we're just going to start off. We'll get a full format of the various draws from Cavan Riley, the chairman of Cavan CCC, okay?
John, I think there was a sense following last year's championship. As you know, the championship for many years in Cavan had been run on a group stage format. I think there was a sense after last year's championship that maybe the earlier rounds weren't as competitive as one would like, particularly in the senior intermediate championship. And the county board conducted a survey among clubs, and the feedback from clubs was that there was a strong move for change from the present structure to a backdoor format. And so what we have for 2013 is a new format for the senior championship, senior and intermediate, and a group format for the junior championship. Now I'll just take you through the senior championship. The first point of note is that there are 17 teams competing in the senior championship in 2013. Now, there will be 4 teams drawn out to play in 3 preliminary rounds, 2 preliminary round A and preliminary round B. The 4 teams will be pitted against 2 against 2 in preliminary round A, with the winners qualifying for round 1 proper. The losers of preliminary round A will compete in preliminary round B, and the winner of that game will go forward to round 1 proper to make up the 16 teams, and the 14 will be eliminated. From there on in, you have a reasonably straightforward championship. The quickest way through to the quarter-final is to win your first group of with 16 teams. 8 teams of those will play off, and 4 teams will make it through to the quarter-final. And the easiest way of explaining them to everybody is that the remaining 12 who competed in round 1 will compete over 3 weeks to make up the final 4 quarterfinals. So that will give you the 8 quarterfinals, and the pairings will be decided by open draw. Moving on to the intermediate championship, there are 14 teams competing in the intermediate championship in 2013. So the format for the intermediate championship will be that there will be a preliminary round involving following 4 teams. So 4 teams will be initially drawn out, and 2 versus 2. Following that, the winners of the 2 preliminary rounds will enter round 1 proper, giving 12 teams in round 1. Those 12 teams will play off to give you six winners. Those 6 winners will be in the quarter-final stage at that stage. The remaining 6 teams from round 1 and the 2 losers from the preliminary round will make up 8 teams, and those teams will play off to eventually get down to 2 teams, and those 2 teams will join the 6 in the quarter-final, to give you the 8. So, moving on to the junior championship. The junior championship is slightly different because there are 10 teams involved, and the format that has been decided on is a group-type format, 3 groups with 4 teams in Group 1, 3 teams in Group 2, and 3 teams in Group 3. They will play off on a league basis, as has been the case in senior and intermediate year 4. The winners of each of the groups, Group 1, 2 and 3, will go straight through to the semi-final. The runner-up in Group 2 and Group 3, the 3 team groups, will play off, and the winner of that game will play the second team in Group 1, with the winner of that going through to the semi-final. So that's the format for the 3 championships, and I think we're in a position now to proceed to the draw.
So, a very good evening to all the delegates who have joined us here in the Hotel Kilmore, and of course going out live as well on Northern Sound. As always, plenty of anticipation in the room as we build up towards the championship for the year ahead, and indeed finding out what the various championships are going to have in store for all of the clubs in Cavan. That will all be revealed very shortly, but as always, let's get 1 or 2 words from some of the people here at the top table. And before we go any further, just to let you know, Gary Robbins helping us out here on the draw, and indeed Angela Hamilton as well, the fixture secretary, looking after proceedings as well here for us behind the scenes. And a big thank you as always to Declan Woods, the PRO of the Cavan County Board, for all his help in preparing this broadcast. Well, let's have 1 or 2 words with some of the people here who have joined us in the podium at our presentation position. And first of all, we'll hear from the chairman of the Cavan County Board, and that's Tom O'Reilly. Tom, if we can start with yourself. Obviously, there's a feel-good factor about Cavan football at the moment. You mentioned it here to the delegates a few minutes ago. Kingspan Berkeley Park, the first Ulster venue to stage an international rules game. And what a fantastic win for Cavan as well on Saturday night against Meath. Anytime you manage to beat the near neighbours, it's fantastic. And really, Cavan football at the moment on a high.
We're very happy with the results of the last 2 league matches. We're looking forward to it, but of course the league matches are the important ones now, and we're looking forward to that. And we don't want to get carried away when we're in Division 2. As regards the international match, it's great to have it in Cavan. It's great for everyone in Cavan. I'm looking forward to a huge turnout for that, and I know the GAA people in Cavan will turn out for that.
We've spoken, I suppose, a little bit maybe about some of the marquee fixtures that's coming up, the National League and the international rules. But really, I suppose, in many ways, the grassroots level of the GAA is what it's all about. And we've had some wonderful club championships in the year gone by, and as we can see here, everybody eagerly looking forward to see what's going to be produced for 2013.
We're looking forward to the championship this year. There's a new format in the intermediate and the senior. I think it's going to be an exciting championship. In the junior, there's also new teams go through to the semi-finals from the first round, which will help the team too. And I think we're on the up at the moment in Cavan, and the championship, of course, is a big one for us. I'm slightly disappointed there's no amalgamations in that this time, but I think that this possibly will be the last championship without amalgamation.
It seems inevitable indeed, not just in Cavan but in counties right throughout the country that's going to be the case. Before we talk to our next guest, I know it's very, very important to make sure that there's a strong sponsorship network, and maybe now more than ever, given the financial environment that we're in at the moment. So it's fantastic to see the sponsors back in here with Cavan, and I know there's 1 or 2 of them that you want to mention as well.
We're delighted with our sponsors, and all have returned, and a few new people coming on board again this year, which is great. But the Hotel Kilmore is the sponsor for our championships. They have been for the last number of years, and we welcome them on board. But I'd like to thank all our sponsors, because our sponsors in Cavan over the last number of years, Cavan, Imperial, the whole Medical, the whole lot, Brady's of Harvard, Division 3 this year back in again, all back in at the riverfront, and of course came on board this year. So I'm looking forward to, that we thank them for what they give to us, because without sponsorship, it's very difficult to run a competition. There's a few competitions there that we're looking for sponsors. If they're out there, we take a call at any time.
Fantastic stuff, Tom. Well done, and a pleasure as always. Thank you so much indeed for joining us here on our podium. And speaking of the sponsors, and obviously it's so important in the running of all the various competitions. And Paul Henry is here as well, the General Manager of the Hotel Kilmore. Great as always to talk to you, and welcome up here to our presentation podium. Tell me, the long and distinguished association that you've built up with the GAA, what does it mean to everybody in the Hotel Kilmore?
Thank you, John. It's great to be back again. I think it's our 15 or 16 years now we're sponsoring this competitions from the Cavan County Board. I'd like to thank Tom and his officers for allowing us, and thank all the clubs locally, especially for their support down through the year, and wish them all well this year. Best of luck.
Well done indeed on that. And of course, it's a two-way situation, I suppose, the whole sponsorship. Obviously, it's fantastic for the GAA to have the sponsorship coming in from the Hotel Kilmore, and you always welcome GAA, let it be dinner, dances, parties, whatever, through the doors as well, and you're always willing to talk to them with keen prices.
That's true, John, and thank them all very much. And doors are always open. Thank you.
Fantastic stuff indeed. And I just want to go back to Tom briefly.
Just there at the levy, and of course they're also sponsors, and Farmer Arms Hotel at the town, the Iron Champion.
Exactly, and absolutely brilliant to have all those on board. Let's proceed on now and find out a little bit about what the various formats of the championships are going to be for the junior, intermediate, and ultimately on to senior grade. And to find out a little bit more, we're going to be joined next by Cavan Riley, the chairman of the Cavan CCC, who joins me here once again in our presentation podium. Kevin, just to give us a little bit about the structures of the various championships, we'll just do them according as they're coming up. So we'll start with the junior. Tell me a little bit what we can expect now for this draw that's about to take place at junior level.
So the first point of note, John, is that there are 10 teams competing in the junior championship. It's a group stage format comprising 3 groups: Group A with 4 teams, Group B with 3, and Group C with 3 teams. The winners of each of the groups will qualify for the semi-finals. So 3 teams will qualify for the semi-final, and the runners-up in each of the groups will play off for the final semi-final, for the remaining semi-finals.
Okay, and of course everything will become much clearer as the various teams go out. So we're about to get underway. Proceedings tonight for the Junior Championship for 2012. Paul and Tom are staying with us here on the display stand, and away we go. Let the fun commence. First team out. So, Arbor become the first team out for the Junior Championship, and as a result, go into Group A. The next team out will be the first team into Group B.
Templeport.
So, Templeport go into Group B. Tom again will choose the next team, who will be automatically going into Group C as team number 1. Shannon Gales going into Group C. So, we're coming back now to Group A. So Corlack go into Group A. Back to Tom once again for the next team to join Templeport in Group B. Munster Connacht joining Templeport in Group B. Next team out now will be once again going into Group C. Remember Shannon Gales there already.
Knockbride.
So Knockbride join Shannon Gales. Remember in Group A already we have Arbor and Corlack. Let's see who's going to join them there, Tom.
Kildallan.
So Kildallan go in there as well. Into Group A. Back to Group B we go.
Kill.
So it's Kill who go into Group B, along with Templeport and Munster Connacht. Shannon Gales, not Bride already in Group C, looking for a little bit of company in there, Tom.
Cornafane.
And Cornafane go in there to Group C. Let's complete Group A. One team left in it.
Mara.
And Mahara completes the Group of A. Now what we'll just do is do a quick recap on those various groups as they're up here in the big screen in front of us in the Hotel Kilmore. Group A consisting of Arba, Turlock, Cadallan, and Mahara. Group B, Timpaport, the first team out, joined by Muncher Connacht and Kill. And in Group C, it's Shannon Gales, Knockbride, and Cornafane, all completing the teams in Group C. So that's the Junior Championship draw for 2013 completed. And obviously, quite a lot of anticipation and quite a lot of interest in that particular group. Just to let you know, we'll be moving on next to the Intermediate Championship in just a couple of moments, but while we're doing that, maybe let's get the initial thoughts here as well of Cavan Riley, who will just call back up to us here, the chairman, as we mentioned earlier on, from the Cavan CCC, and he's already, I can see here just to my right, well, digesting that draw which has taken place, and obviously there'll be some interesting games there. Kevin, I'll just get you to come up to me here for a moment while we're getting ready to get ready for the Intermediate Championship draw. That's the Junior one completed. Your initial reaction?
Very interesting groups, John. Certainly Group B, three very strong teams there, Cavan, and Kill. Group C consists of teams that have performed at a lot higher level in the past, Shannon Gales, Knockbride and Cornafane. And I suppose Mahara interrupts a West Cavan group of Arba, and Cadallan. So they're all very interesting, very competitive groups.
And of course the local derbies there are always something that we can look out for and indeed look forward to in the championship. Well, at this stage, ladies and gentlemen, we are ready to move on from the Junior Championship to the Intermediate Championship for 2013. Remember that in 2012, the Intermediate Championship in Cavan, very, very competitive competition indeed, with Lacken and Virgin as the winners. Well, let's see maybe who's going to go all the way in this particular one. Maybe first of all, let's get a bit about the format of the draws that's going to take place just before we have them back to Cavan.
The format for the Intermediate Championship, first of all, there are 14 teams competing in it. So there will be a preliminary round made up of 4 teams, 2 playing 2. The winners of those two games, they come out as Game A, Game B. They will go into the first round 1 proper, which will then consist of 12 teams. Those will be drawn out. The 6 of the winning teams will go through to the quarter final. The remaining 6 plus the losing 6 plus the 2 losers from the preliminary round will compete by way of a back door for the remaining 2 quarter-final places.
And again, it will become much, much clearer as we progress on. We're good to go, gentlemen, here for the Intermediate Championship. Already anticipation building up. Group A, or Game A, I should say. Drum Lane. So let's see who they're going to be playing.
Mount Nugent.
Mount Nugent. So it's Drumlane against Mount Nugent. Now we're going to move on to Group B. And Tom is the first team out for this particular match.
Kilishandra.
So Kilishandra become the first team out for Group B. Or for Game B, I should say. And they will be taking on
Cavan Gales.
Cavan Gales. So it's going to be Kilishandra against Cavan Gales and Drumlane against Mount Nugent. Now let's move into the next part of the draw. And those teams back in. The teams. So round 1, remember we have this section to complete now. So Tom.
Killinkerr.
Killinkerr. And they will be up against
Ballyhays.
Ballyhays, so it's Killinkerr against Ballyhays. Next game.
Shercock.
So Shercock, the next team out. And Shercock will be taking on Drun. So it's Shercock against Drun. Moving on now to the next particular pairing.
Winners of the preliminary group Game B.
Okay, so that's the winners of Game B, which is Kilishandra and Cavan Gales. And they will be playing So a game against Butler's Bridge for the winners of that game in Group B. Let's move on next to the next pairing that's been drawn here tonight.
Swanland Bar.
Swanland Bar. And Swanland Bar will be up against
Larry United.
Larry United, providing the opposition for Swanland Bar. 2 more matches to go. Back to Tom.
The winners of Game A.
That's the winners from Game A, John Lane, of course, playing Mount Nugent in that particular match. And their opposition will be
Ballymacue.
Ballymacue. So the winners from that game, Group A or Game A, taking on Ballymacue. 2 teams left, final pairing.
Peterborough.
Peterborough and Coot Hill, the last but by no means least team drawing out for the Intermediate Championship for 2013. So there you have it, a number of really interesting games to look forward to in the summer ahead. Of course, the 2 games just to decide the teams to win the first round will be the initial matches we made off, Dublin against Mount Nugent, Killashandra taking on Cavan Gales, and then we're proceeding into round 1 proper from there on in, certainly, which will be providing us, to say the least, 1 or 2 very tasty and 1 or 2 very competitive fixtures indeed for the year ahead. As always here, we're going to reflect on that particular draw now in the company of Kevin Riley, once again, who's once more just taking his time to have a look at those various games which we can look forward to. Maybe we can start there. I suppose the games that everybody will be talking about initially will be the matches that decide who goes into the first round, and really competitive and cracking and matches to look forward to right across that particular draw.
Yeah, certainly, John, there's some very interesting ties here. I think the tie between Peterborough and Hill would be certainly very interesting tie.
One of the standout ones for you.
Hill went very close to capturing the intermediate last year, and they hope to be hoping to go 1 step further this year. So I suppose in a sense they're the team to beat. Kilcare, but it is very evenly balanced match as well. Larry United have moved up from the junior championship, and they will face the might of Gareth Kieran and company. So all in all, very interesting, very evenly balanced.
At this stage, I presume almost impossible to predict who will be coming out of it, so it certainly will be a draw and indeed a championship that will give us plenty to talk about in the summer ahead. Well, believe it or not, at this stage we are moving on to the, well, I suppose in all due respect, to the big event of the night, the 2013 Hotel Kilmore Cavan Senior Football Championship. Of course, last year's champions Mullahorn, still the team to beat, or maybe Cavan Gales could return to the top table in Cavan football. We'll find out more about that very shortly indeed. But let's talk a little bit about what the format of the 2013 championship is going to be. And once again, Kevin will talk us through what's just about to happen here in the Hotel Kilmore.
There are 17 teams competing in the Senior Championship in 2013. So we will have 2 series of preliminary rounds. Preliminary round A will consist of 4 teams drawing out in 2 pairings, and will form the winners of the preliminary round going into the first round proper. That the winners of Game A and Game B is how they come out of the draw. The losers of Game A and Game B will then compete in preliminary round B, and the winner of that game will also go through to the first round proper, and the losing team of the 4 will be eliminated. So one of the 4 preliminary round teams will be eliminated, taking your first round proper down to 16 teams.
All right, I think at this stage, perhaps the anticipation is building up nicely. Let's see who the initial team out are going to be for the 2013 championship at senior level in Cavan. Tom.
Cavan Gales.
Cavan Gales, the first team out. And let's see who's going to have the honour of playing them in the championship for next year.
Lacken.
So it's going to be Cavan Gales and Lacken. You can hear the size already here in the Hotel Kilmore. Not sure maybe if you can gauge them at home, but already we have a talking point in the championship. Let's move on to Group B, Game B. Drumgoon. And we can see who they will be taking on.
Rarmy United.
So it's going to be Rammer United providing the opposition for Jungoon. So the winners, as we mentioned there, of A and B, will go through two round one and two numbers going once again there. I will be finding out more about those teams, those prospective winners, who they'll be facing as we move on. So, into round one. Tom.
Winners, Game B.
So, the game B that we just drawn out there, the winners of that particular game are the first team out. And their opposition is going to be Mullahoran. Out nice and early in the draw. On to the next match we go. Tom?
Killygarry.
So Killygarry. And providing the opposition for Killygarry will be 10. Killygarry and 10. Already a number of delegates looking forward to that one here. The handshakes have started already down unders.
Cuchulainn.
So Cuchulainn, so the next team out.
Belturbet.
And Belturbet will provide the opposition for Cuchulainn. On to the fourth game.
Winners, Game A.
So that's the winners from Game A. And let's see who's going to be waiting for them.
Winner for Premium Round A, Game
Okay. That's actually B, I think it's the winners of. B. We'll just move on for the moment and we'll clarify it a little bit later for you. So, Cuchulainn, the next team out. And taking on Cuchulainn will be
Lavi.
So Lavi providing the opposition there. Castlerahan. And taking on Castlerahan.
Red Hills.
Red Hills providing the opposition for Castlerahan. 2 games remaining.
Ballinya.
So Ballinya join out next.
Drummondley.
And they'll be taking on Jubilee. Final pairing now.
Cavan.
And that's going to be Ghana.
Kingsford Stars.
And Kingscourt Stars providing the opposition there for Ghana. Big thank you indeed, as always, to our guests here who helped us facilitate with the draw. Maybe let's get some clarification on it. There are obviously a lot of talking points and indeed a lot of games to look forward to on that particular senior championship for the year ahead. Once more, Cavan Riley comes back into our discussion studio here to reflect back on the draw there for the 2013 Hotel Kilmore Senior Football Championship.
I suppose the first observation is that Cavan Gales have probably got the short end of the stick. They'll be drawn out in the preliminary round in both intermediate and senior. In terms of standout fixtures, it's very hard to play my own club, Killygarry, who have a tie with neighbouring Den managed by a former Killygarry stalwart, and a bit of spice to that fixture. Obviously, Cuchulainn and Lavi Cuchulainn back in the senior championship for the first time since 2010. So that will be an interesting fixture. Castlerahan and the Hills, certainly very interesting. Castlerahan have been showing good area form in the league. Matty Cavan and Lacken is always a very competitive fixture, and Lacken having moved up from intermediate in 2012. So it's a tough draw to start with, but I'm sure they'll be well fired up for it.
Absolutely, there'll be some fantastic games to look ahead to. Well, we have been joined here by a number of guests in our discussion studio, just to give us a little bit of reflection back on that particular draw, and indeed we'll reflect back as well briefly on the intermediate and junior championships as well. Can we start by asking you to put your hands together as we welcome up here to stage from the home of the defending senior champions, Philip Brady. Over here, nice and close to me. Your initial reaction on that senior championship draw. It's an interesting one to say the least. There's always going to be some good games there. The champions, the team to beat.
Yeah, hopefully we're the team to beat anyway. There's a few interesting draws, all right. But there's no easy games, as we know, in the senior championship or any of the championships. So I think it's one game at a time, and I think it's
What's the maybe attitude of a team going in defending a title like that? You'll obviously know you're there, the team that everyone wants to take down. Was there anybody maybe that you wanted to avoid, or you have to play, I suppose, the big teams at some stage?
I think Mullingham is one of the teams that everyone always wants to take down. Yeah, you have to beat the good teams. You know, Ramor on Drumgoon is obviously going to be difficult. They're both going well at the minute, good starting leagues, and you know Ramor's up and coming, and it's going to be difficult. Again, we just worry about performances, try and get to the championship, and again, one game at a time. Obviously, given these champions, it's a bit more pressure maybe, but as I say, we've learned a lot from last year, and mentally we're in a good spot, and hopefully we can be there and thereabouts in business end.
What about the form in the early rounds of the league so far? Happy with that?
Yes, up and down. You know, we only got a manager maybe about 2 weeks ago. We've only about 6 or 7 training sessions on us, so again, we're always a bit slow starters, and hopefully pick it up towards the end of the league and the championship. But again, we're in a good place. We hadn't that big a layoff from last year's league and championship, so again, it's not too bad of start, but we only get a few wins on it, I think a bit of pressure on us.
Okay, well, look, very best of luck in the season ahead, and certainly it'll be interesting to see how you fare out. Okay, next we want to welcome here to our discussion studio, Raven Gallagher from Lacken, the intermediate champions of last year. Initially, maybe just give me your own thoughts on the draw where you find yourselves in for the senior championship.
Yeah, we're just delighted with the senior championship. I suppose being in the preliminary round is a bit unfortunate, but you know, playing Cavan Gales, and you have to take one game at a time. And you know, if you want to win a senior championship, you're going to have to beat the big teams at Cavan Gales more than one hand. So yeah, we're happy now.
Cavan Gales a couple of years ago almost seemed unbeatable in Cavan, and they're still, I presume, going to be a fairly difficult proposition.
Yeah, Cavan Gales is always a difficult team to play, no matter when you have them. But again, it's 15 on 15, and see how the day comes. Hopefully, we are prepared enough to beat them on the day.
Yeah, well, fantastic stuff, and very best of luck to you in the season ahead. And that's from the senior. Talk to me a little bit about the intermediate championship now, the one that you've just won. Who would you fancy maybe to come up after you for this particular year?
Intermediate is often very tight, and again, some of the games are local derbies and that. I fancy Good Hill, are a very good championship team, as showed last year, so I fancy them not to be too far away from it.
Alright, let's get some more reaction. By the way, put your hands together there for Raven. Thank you very much for joining us up here on the street. Obviously, Amanda's going to have a lot of interest in the intermediate championship this year. As Pádraig Gordon from Larry United, the chairman as well. We'll find out what your views are maybe on the intermediate championship, and then we'll talk a little bit about the one that you won last year, the junior. But talk to me about the intermediate one first of all, and let's start off with your own club. Happy with what the gods have produced here this evening?
I suppose delighted to this side of the preliminary round. I suppose that was the club that everyone in the intermediate championship are happy enough to get. We are quite happy with the Swan and Bar. I suppose we're looking forward to a good year ahead. We're a young team coming, and we're hoping to give them to be the middle run.
Obviously, the intermediate championship has produced some very competitive championship matches over the last number of years, but it's going to be a great test of the development of the teams and how you progress at that stage.
Oh yes, without doubt. I went to nearly all the championship matches last year, and I've seen that the intermediate probably was the most competitive of all the competitions. And looking at the fixture this year, I think that's going to be the case again.
talk to me a little bit about the junior championship. Of course, obviously, you'd be delighted to have won that and maybe happy to be out of it as well in the intermediate. Just looking at the teams that still are there and will be competing at junior level for 2013, the way the draw has gone down, is it going to favour anyone in particular?
Well, I don't think any of those groups will favour anybody playing in the junior championship. It's just as tough as the senior. Every team there wants to win. I suppose looking at the draws, Munchausen have a tough battle, but they have a good heart. The team that Kill gone down. Probably the team that was down seems to be always favoured to win it, so maybe Kill up the team this year.
All right, come on, look, we'll keep taking that prediction on board, and thank you so much indeed for joining us here on the stage. I think finally we want to talk to Paul Fitzpatrick as well. Okay, I was just going to get a little bit of clarification on the senior draw that took place, and I just want to come back to Cavan momentarily on that.
John, just one point of clarification in relation to the fourth draw in round one. There were three preliminary rounds, three games in the preliminary rounds. In preliminary round A, there were two games. Game A, Cavan Gales versus Lacan. Game B, Drumgoon versus Rammer United. The winners of those went into the draw as winner game A and game B. Now, there will be a further preliminary round B, which will consist of the losers of those two games. So, the way the draw has turned out, the winner of Cavan Gales and Lacan will play the loser of game A and game B. It came out as preliminary round B. So, the winner of Cavan Gales and Lacan will be playing one of the other four teams in game A and game B.
Okay. Thank you so much for that. So hopefully that clarifies everything as regards the senior championship. Just to wrap up, it's time maybe to talk to somebody who's very much in the know when it comes to getting football here in Cavan. Paul Fitzpatrick, on behalf of yourself, thank you indeed for joining us up here on stage. Let's maybe start with the senior championship that has just taken place. Still up here on the screen in front of me. Your views on that?
I think it's going to be some very tight games. I think the round could be passed around and it's two very evenly matched teams. Cavan Gales will probably feel they're obviously drawn in the preliminary round. They're probably the team everyone wants to avoid. Lacan has been drawn against Cavan Gales the last couple of times in the senior championship. Gales got the upper hand. So Gales probably fancy the chance to win that one again. Kingsford is another interesting play. Cavan are a very good championship team. Kingsford, of course, were only beaten in the final last year. Kilgarry and then being local there as well. As Kevin said, there's a Kilgarry connection with the then management there. Crushlaw and Abbey, I suppose, is another. Crushlaw just come up from intermediate with a very good young team. And Abbey are boosted by the rise of Ray Coleman as well. So in Abbey, they kind of forced them to go on and win the championship.
Okay, well already people are taking note of your predictions. Let's briefly look at the intermediate championship. Any games there that stands out straight away at you?
I suppose the Lidler were only beaten the Rita last year by Lacan, and Lacan were a very strong intermediate team last year. So the Lidler were probably the team everyone wanted to avoid. David running in Spain were another young team. They came up and they won the Division 3 last year. Tremaine are a team that's been there and thereabouts. They've lost a few players as well, but they're a good championship team as well and had a good run last year before they ran into Lacan. So they're playing Mount Nugent. Of course, Cavan Gales, they've been a team that I can't well maybe won that in the championship the last couple of years. They have a very good young team. They're playing for the chance. That'll be a good one because the chance have a very strong backline and Gales have got a good young forward. So that'll be one worth watching.
Certainly will, and of course people would always tell you, regardless of what county you're in, the junior championship, one of the hardest in the championships to win in any of the various counties. And again, it's going to be difficult to predict maybe who's going to come out after the initial draw, which has just taken place for this year.
It is, yeah. The group system, I suppose, makes it very hard to call. I'd say Group C was the big call, the group of depth as well. Shannon Gales are a very strong team. Now, Pride, who were beating the senior championship not that long ago, of course, then a team with a great pedigree. Group B, you've got three very equal match teams, but Killer just learned from the Munchausen, they're beating Division 2 in the two young teams last night before. Won it up with one of the teams, doing very well on the race. Group A, I suppose, the Harbour was the greatest issue there. Group A is
reading all your predictions in the summer ahead. Paul, thank you so much indeed for joining us up here on our presentation stage. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen, the draw for 2013 in the various groups at intermediate level, and of course junior, and indeed in the senior championship have been completed. At this stage, can we wish each and every one of the clubs all the very best of luck in the summer ahead. Thank you so much for joining us here tonight. From myself, John Lynch, from all of us here at the Hotel Kilmore, a very good night.